Hi everyone! So this will be probably a pretty different video from my usual kind of deal. I'm talking about Ariana Grande. So if you've been exposed to any amount of pop culture in the last month and a half or so, you've probably heard the song Thank You Next by Ariana Grande. It's like a sort of a breakup anthem, but it's got a message of overall positivity. Thank You Next music video, in my opinion, is great. Super reference heavy, just my lane. I loved watching it. So many people were in it that were just, it was like a fun little Easter egg hunt for me personally. But an article was written from the website Into entitled, Ariana Grande's Thank You Next music video is surprisingly anti-queer. So I'm just gonna try to read the article to you, probably piece by piece. I'll probably go on for too long, but I'll edit it down if I have to. But it's about as wild as you think it's gonna be. But, you know, let's get into it. So the second paragraph of this article says, while the song is actually dedicated to Ariana's past boyfriends, the music video makes a surprising ode to her queer followers. Unfortunately, not all representation is good, and her music video failed to support the basic dignity of queer and trans people. Laden with trans misogyny, anti-queer jokes, and blackface, the video follows Ariana's white feminist wickeding through a celebrity-laden nod to several cult classics. There's literally just so much to unpack in that, but like, we don't have time to do all of that. We'll go through, see what we can get through. So the next paragraph, the video takes place at a typical suburban, white/wealthy high school. I don't know if you've seen Mean Girls, but they are at a suburban, majority white/wealthy high school, which is the point of Mean Girls, and it's referential, so it is unclear if Ariana is supposed to be the superficial antagonist of the video, like Regina George in Mean Girls, or if she's attempting to portray underdog Katie Heron, who resists the plastic normativity. I mean, this is just like me being petty, but like I think it's pretty clear who is portraying who, but it's just like, it's a reference. Ariana isn't vilifying herself in real life through this video. But we continue. Just 10 seconds into the video, trans viewers may be stunned to see a cisgender man in a bright pink cardigan and wig playing a trans woman. We're already supposed to laugh at him for his feminine mannerisms. So this is a point that at its very base, I can begin to see as valid. Because I think the trope of men acting as women for comedy is not only overused, but doesn't like, it's not actual comedy. A man being feminine isn't comedy, if that makes sense. But I do question why this is directed just to trans viewers, and I don't think that he's supposed to be playing a trans woman. I think it's just supposed to be the general joke of man in a beard with a dress on. So I think there is an argument to be had there. I'm confused about the presentation of this argument. So it goes on to Troye Sivan, King, repeating a rumor. I heard she's a lesbian now and dating some chick named Aubrey. It's sick. Lesbians, hilarious, right? This reference comes from Apple Music mistranslating a lyric because her name is Aubrey instead of the real lyric, which is Ari, which led people to think she was referencing another woman. Some commentators accused her of queer baiting with the potentially misleading lyrics. Others commended it for being empowering. She was so offended at the very thought of having a woman as her lover, she even addressed it in the very beginning of her music video. Alright, so after the valid point, we go right back into something stupid. Ariana can't pronounce things, that's like just a well-known fact. Any impression of her is someone going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And the article even says that this was based on a mistake. And I don't think she was really offended by this mistake as much as she's like, oh haha, my poor pronunciation that I shared, because I just had to retake that line, has confused people once again. And one of the reasons I don't think she's offended is this picture. Also, she's not like defensive. She's just like, there are a lot of rumors about her. She thinks that they're silly, you know? So then this author insinuates that she is using blackface and that she doesn't care about people of color, which I think that's ridiculous. I think in that one scene, she is poorly lit and Italian, but clearly playing a white character, and that she doesn't care about people of color I think is not only baseless, but it's borderline slanderous. But we continue. As the lyrics continue, it becomes clear she only cares about herself. Plus I met someone else, we having better discussions. I know they say I move on too fast, but this one's gonna last because her name is Ari, and I'm so good with that. This individualistic statement could be empowering for the white, cisgender, straight feminists who are represented in this video. Of course, this is at the expense of queer people, trans women, and people of color. So for a lot of this article, I think it's dumb, but this is like really so incredibly stupid. Loving yourself doesn't mean you hate other people. I think this is just like a basic fact. But also, in the same song, Ariana says that she is spending more time with her friends, which doesn't make it seem like she cares only about herself. Also, no inherent identity that you have should stop you from loving and respecting yourself. That could be controversial for some people, but that is, I don't think you can change my mind on that. The color of your skin, your orientation, like whatever about you that is within you is you, and that's fine, and you don't have to be ashamed of that. Also, this video features queer people and people of color who are active participants and who have their own voice. I just can't understand like what this person is trying to say. Speaking of queer people in this video, we have Troye Sivan. The article says, she then pushes Sivan into the lockers. He clutches his books, happy that she even touched him. Queer people are apparently glad to be disrespected, so long as it's by someone as popular as Ariana. Once again, Mean Girls, the film. I recommend this author watches it. It's a commentary on how popularity is dumb and how it lets people degrade themselves to this person that they have idolized, and how that person isn't right, but people have degraded themselves in that way. Also, this insinuates that Troye Sivan is incapable of speaking for himself and being an autonomous person, which is like bananas insulting. We'll get back to Troye a little bit later. Actually, probably a lot of it later. So the next section is talk about the scene that's referencing Bring It On, and more explicitly about like race relations in relation to that. And I've never seen Bring It On. I don't want to comment on how that movie portrays race, but I will say that there are scenes where the white cheerleaders and black cheerleaders are cheering together, and it's not like segregated, and everyone seems like they're having a great time. That's all I'll say on that. Finally, it lands to a cut in the music. One of the more explicitly anti-queer scenes. Ariana says she misses Pete Davidson. He was really cute, and it was really big. Coolidge confirms that they were discussing teeth and not penises. They were definitely discussing penises. But have you ever gone out with someone that had no teeth at all? Ariana quickly replies no with a smirk. Queerness in this case is used as nothing more than a dry comedic prop. Ariana at this point not only responds to rumors about her sexuality just once, but twice in the video. She emphasizes her heterosexuality as a point of pride and empowerment. So, I'm gonna give this author the benefit of the doubt that they were just confused. I think this section is more of commentary on the idea that you can change your sexuality just because things don't work out with a bunch of people of one gender. The idea that like men are too hard to deal with, I'll just date women. And I feel like people probably at some point have suggested this to Ariana, and she's just like, can't just change your sexuality, which I think is a really valid point. And the song could lead to speculation that Ariana wants to date women just because she's had poor experiences in her relationships with men. Moving on, what the heck? Queerness is not a prop. I think it's fair to respond to rumors about your sexuality. And heterosexual pride, when the whole song is about dating men and how it's gone wrong. The whole song about dating men, but it doesn't glorify that. It says that stuff has happened and it's glorifying growing in a healthy way, which is like, any sexuality can relate to that, needing to grow in a healthy way from things that have hurt you. Also, controversial again, it's okay to be proud of being straight, not at the expense of being gay or any other sexuality that's not harmful, but it's okay to be proud that you're straight. And there's plenty of discussion to be had about how that pride should express itself and what that should mean, but I can't think that it's wrong to feel ashamed that you're straight or to not take pride in what you are. The next couple paragraphs are low-key kind of confusing, and I'll skip that one, but I think you should read this article for yourself. But I think there are just a lot of points here that can be not just easily refuted, but completely dismissed at some point. So after that section that's kind of confusing, the article really just shoots off the rails. Like, it is, I'll just read it. After the music ends, it cuts to Kris Jenner, who plays Ariana's mom. She simply shouts, "Thank you next, bitch," while holding a camera. The final line of the music video. As bitch is generally directed at women and thank you next is in reference to relationships, this is likely aimed at Caitlyn Jenner. She divorced Caitlyn in 2015 shortly after her transition. Perhaps this is in reference to Caitlyn's far-right politics. Perhaps it's a jab at her trans identity. We can't be sure unless Kris Jenner speaks out about the line. Regardless, there is something questionable about ending such a virulently anti-queer / trans misogynistic video with a complaint about a trans woman. Excuse me, what? I don't even think that I need to explain how bonkers this statement is. Not only are there so many elements that have been totally pulled out of thin air, but it's not even comprehensive, and it doesn't relate to anything in the video. Also, the phrase "thank you next" in this context is positive, meaning that it would be a positive direct to Caitlyn Jenner, which I cannot even begin to say how much I don't think that that is true. Also, specifically because Ariana said that she came up with that line because I don't think they just let Kris Jenner free rein with what she wanted to do. And then the phrase virulently anti-queer and trans misogynistic is so caustic, and I think this author needs to issue an apology to Ariana's entire team, because that is such a nasty accusation, and genuinely I think it's completely unfounded. And I think Ariana could cite so many things in this article that have no basis in reality, and so many things in her video that aren't hateful, and her record of being a positive person who's supportive of people's identities. So this next point in the article is another one that I'm like, I can give some credence to. It says, we need to stop labeling straight women as gay icons because they give us the bare minimum representation. So I think there's definitely a lot of straight women and people that will always be icons within the gay community. I think that goes without saying. But I think the era of straight people being gay icons is sort of past, because like back in like the day, 2000s before, there was sort of a need for straight people to be the avenue for representing gay people, if that makes sense. There needed to be introductions into the mainstream world. Artists that were known and straight were able to give representation and a voice to people who weren't afforded that allowance, if that makes sense. And now, in 2018, there's so much more room for gay people to be their own representation, to represent themselves without needing the crutch, I guess, of straight person. And allyship is obviously still really important, but it's not necessary for opening the doors that it needed to back in the day. So let me know what you think about that. If I'm correct, if you think I'm wrong. I'm obviously not an expert. This is just what I have observed in my short time on Earth. So the final paragraph says, thank you next is entertaining, but the kind of entertainment that we should be horrified about. If nothing else, we should gawk in horror at minstrelly, anti-queer / trans sentiment, and racism that is so prevalent in this video. If people begin to speak out, then we may be better equipped to hold entertainers who fail to have basic respect for people of color, trans women, and queer people accountable in the future. Like, no, like obviously not. I think I can sum up all of my thoughts in this tweet in response to this article by Troye Sivan that says, a king. So obviously I think this article is a bunch of nonsense bred from a place of, I think honestly, just deep insecurity in oneself. I just think there is a need for pushback against this kind of sentiment, which I definitely see on Twitter. Everyone thinks this is dumb, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That was literally so embarrassing. This whole time I've been in the law building. It's like 10:30 at night, so it's kind of empty. But I was like, if someone passes me by, I could just be like working on a project. But I was literally saying, put your